Okay, we're going to start a new application here, or at least we're going to be working on a new application file in Illustrator. So let's go down and open up Illustrator. We're going to create a new document. So go File, New, or you can push Command N. Let's see, we call the last one Larry, so we'll call this one Mo. Mo with an E? Sure, why not? We'll start with one artboard, just 8.5 by 11 letter size. It'll be portrait. We'll stick with CMYK, and we'll understand why that is here in just a moment, so you'll see. Just go ahead and hit OK. Now, we're going to grab our tools over here. Some of the first tools we're going to use are going to be these right here for drawing. These tools right here represent our drawing tools. These are our manipulation, or our selection tools, I beg your pardon. And these are our manipulation tools down here. But we're going to start with our drawing tools. Specifically, we're going to start with the rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag on that, and you'll see as you drag, you're going to get sort of an idea of what the box is going to look like. It's going to give it its shape. Now I want you to push the Option key as you drag. You'll notice now that it draws from that center point, or where you started drawing. If I take my finger off the Option key, you'll note that you started drawing over here, and you'll draw out from that point. The other thing I want you to recognize too is if you push Shift, it will constrain it so that you have a perfect square. So among those are 3 different keys that will be important to recognize and to use. Shift will do a perfect constrained square. Option will draw from the center out. No key will push it, or will draw it from any position or any sort of angle or shape that you want. And if Option will draw it from the center and Shift will draw a perfectly proportioned square, then Option and Shift pushed together will draw a perfect square from the center. So that gives us our center. Now, once that's drawn, let's grab our black arrow. This is our selection arrow. You'll notice that around this we have what's called a bounding box. Every time you put your cursor over the top of one of these little icons or one of these little hollow squares, you're going to get an arrow. What that means is you can drag that and adjust the size. Now this is an advantage of the black selection arrow. If you click on the inside, it will allow you to move the box anywhere you want. So outside allows you to manipulate the shape. Inside allows you to select the item. Now I want you to notice something right here. If I click on the white area outside of that, it deselects my object. I can click on the inside and it will select the entire object. Or with the black arrow, I can click and drag over any portion of it and it will still select the entire object. Notice that my stroke, I have a stroke around here, a black outline, and then a white fill color. You'll see that that's similar to what we have going on here. This represents our fill color, and this right here represents our stroke. So if I go to Window and get my swatches, now I'm going to select this, and in order to change anything within this object you always have to select it, otherwise you're trying to change nothing because you have nothing selected. If I want this to become a red fill right here, there are a number of ways I can do it. I can click on a swatch, notice how it changes the color there and here, or I can select a color in my swatch palette and drag it to my box, and it will fill whatever color is in the foreground. Whatever color is in the foreground is the color it's going to fill. If I click here, now my stroke is in the foreground. And so if I click on a color, you'll notice that it will change that stroke color. Okay. If I go back here, I want to change it to black, I can click, drag it here, and it will change it because you have that area in the foreground. Or I can grab it and I can drag it over to my swatches like that, or to this area. So I can say, alright, I want this to be green fill, so I'm going to drag that over here, and it will not only put it green on the inside, but it will also make that fill color, or it will also bring that fill color to the foreground. Okay. Now there are a couple things you need to recognize with swatches. These all represent spot colors. This right here means no color. This is registration. You'll learn more about that. It means every color in the book. This is white, or paper color is what it can be called. If you have something white, whatever is printed in there is going to be the color of the paper. So if you're printing on green paper, that's going to be green. That's just how it is. So, okay. All right. Now, we know that the black arrow will move an object. We'll select us by clicking in the white, it will deselect it. By clicking and dragging over a portion or over the whole thing, we'll select the object, and it will go in to manipulate those shapes. Well, the white arrow is similar and yet has its own traits as well. This is the direct selection arrow. If I click on the inside, it will select the entire object, but you'll notice that our bounding box is gone. You'll also notice that the anchor points around the outside, these are the things that establish the shape of your object, those are all solid. Well, if I deselect and I click and drag over the whole thing, all of it will be selected. However, if I click and drag over a portion, you'll notice that only one of these anchor points is solid. That means that this anchor point is active. So now if I click right on that corner, I can move that around. Or I can come down here to this anchor point and click here. Now notice this is a solid blue and that one is now hollow. I can click and drag that around. And so I can go in and manipulate the shape of something based on what the anchor points are doing. And that's the trait of the direct selection tool. I can also select just on a line. If I'm very careful and click right on the edge of that line, it will move that entire line all together like that. Or if I click and drag over a portion, now you'll see that both of those anchor points are selected. I can come in and move that like that. Right now, we're going to try an experiment. I want all of you to go ahead and pause this, and then I want you to open a new document, create a document if you haven't already, because we're going to build something. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Now, as I hit delete or backspace, you'll notice that only these two are selected, these two anchor points. If I deselect, or if I delete those, it deletes those that are active. Now this line is left, so I've got to hit delete again to make sure that that's gone. Okay. Now, if you'll pause it, everybody, if you haven't got your new document ready, go ahead and pause and then come back, because we're going to start, or go ahead and restart it, because we're going to create something, a shape, and we're going to use a couple of tools to manipulate it. So, all right, now we're going to grab the square tool, and I'm going to give it an orange fill. I can assign that fill before I do anything just by clicking and dragging that over here. In fact, I don't like that orange. I'm going to get more of this orange. Okay, because that was really more of a marigold and we wanted an orange, you know. All right, now I'm going to get my rectangle tool. I want to draw a perfect square, so I'm going to push the shift key as I click and drag that. Now, I'm going to get everybody, while you have that square tool selected, push your command key. You'll notice that that will change that tool back to the most recent arrow that you had. So I'm going to go to my black arrow because that's the tool I'm going to use for a moment here. Alright, now with that square, what I want you to do is this. Let's go ahead and get our stroke color, and we're going to get rid of that color. We're going to go ahead and click here. We can also click here, but what we want is simply to have no color. Okay. Now, I want you to select your square and copy it. So push Command C or go to Edit, Copy, and then Command V or Edit, Paste. Okay. You're going to take that and drag that directly above here. Now, I want you to go ahead and push Command V or go Edit, Paste. Now it's going to save whatever it was that you copied in your clipboard, so that you still have access for it. We're going to drag that over to here. Alright, now let's zoom in, get the magnifying glass. We'll zoom in a little closer here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to align these. I want these all to be at this exact same point right here. Well, I can eyeball it by coming in and getting them close together, and that will do a pretty good job, although you'll notice that there's still a little gap. So for me, what I'm going to do is get my magnifying glass and zoom in just as close as I can. And you can do that by clicking and dragging over the area that you want to focus on. And then I'm going to go to my View menu. Right now we're in Preview mode. I want to go to Outline mode. What this does is it shows you just the outlines of the shape. Now if I push Command Y, it will flip back and forth, and you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead now and select this square and drag it so that it lines up perfectly. Now, it's not perfectly aligned on the top, but it is right here on the side. What I'm going to do now is go to my window palette to align, and I'm going to select these two objects, and now I can go ahead and align them on the top. You'll see there are lots of different alignments here. Aligning to the left, this line will show you where it's going to align to, center, and so on. Okay? Now I'm going to grab this, and notice I'm using my black arrow, which means that if I grab a portion of it, it's all going to be selected. If I use my white arrow and I try to click and drag, it's going to distort that shape. I'm going to go to Edit, Undo. Command Z is your friend. It's the being able to undo something is really important. So let's go ahead and select this. We're going to drag it down to here until it meets up right with that corner. Now I'm going to zoom out like this, and you can push Command 0, it will zoom out all the way. So, or go to View, let's see, zoom out, fit in window, actual size, or so on. I always fit Artboard in the window. So, okay, now we'll go to View, Preview, and it will get us back to our squares. Let's select this, and